Following is the conversation with Anudeep Yegireddi, who is building an AI platform that automates the process of interviews for both companies and candidates. Anudeep has previously worked for companies like Apple. He has founded multiple companies in the past. I met him at a co-working session in Bangalore and asked him a bunch of questions. Here's how it went. What projects are you currently working on?
So I'm working on AI agents as a general concept.
Okay.
Specifically, I'm trying to build a mock interview agent that helps both interviewees, interviewers, and all the layers in between.
Okay. How do you think AI will change the world in the next decade?
I think AI is the big change, and we were talking about this a little while ago, is that it moves the branching from binary to gradients. That means previously it used to be if this, do this, else do this. Right? And human had to go in and hard code what it had to do.
Yeah.
With AI now, because it is kind of a reasoning agent, it can figure out the gradient of possibilities, and you give it overarching instructions such as like only take an action when you have like higher than an X% probability. Where it is generating its own possible space. It's like the action space it is generating, and then it is choosing one action space based on the rules that you have given. Versus like, if this, then do this, else do this, else do. So you as a human have to figure out all the potential branches and then like direct the code to like go down a specific branch if a specific set of instructions are met. Versus with AI, it can generate a much larger space of actions, and if you code it well, it figures out which branches to go down by itself. I feel like that's a big change that is going to come.
Oh, so how far AGI is according to you?
AGI is, it's a very seductive word, but I don't engage with it too much because we tend to look at AGI as AGI and also like human intelligence, and like AGI is when this thing reaches human intelligence. But human intelligence is like gas. And if you give it like an open space, it will fill it up. Right? But human intelligence is also good for another thing, which is it can figure out new spaces. It can find new spaces. That's an emergent idea where all of the current things hold, but the jump is unobvious. So for example, before Newton came up with like the laws of gravitation, we knew that when you throw things up, they fall down. All of the knowledge was there. The emergent idea is that there is a fundamental layer that is connecting everything. So that is the concept of creating new spaces. And once a new space is created, like human intelligence like kind of goes and fills that space up.
Nice.
Artificial intelligence is better than humans at filling the space. So if you give it a new room, it will fill that room up faster than a human. But an AI, at least in my current view of this, is inherently incapable of finding new spaces. I think that will always be something that humans do. So when will AGI come is like a complex question. If an AGI, in the way that I look at it, is in the space that we have defined of the rules, it will figure out more possibilities, and in those possibilities there might be interesting things that we humans have not thought about, because it's a search and find problem, not like a figure out a new thing. So that I think we should be able to start seeing some interesting applications of that kind, where AGI in some ways is like the model kind of by itself is figuring out what to do, where we're only giving the top level instructions. Not like, okay, create an agent that does this, then also create an agent that does this, then link these two agents together, then link a third agent to do this, which is doing this. It's more human. It's kind of like that branching logic that I said, right? Versus like a gradient. So I think that we should start seeing some of those interesting applications.
What are some of the most amazing applications of AI you've seen so far? Companies or like?
So most of the innovation in AI right now is happening in the model space, model innovation space.
So training, basically.
So
companies like Anthropic or big hotshots. Okay.
Yeah. So I think most of the innovation is concentrated there. It's almost like they're taking out all the wind. So everybody is now like thinking, oh, if I'm not able to train my own model, then OpenAI has everything, and like there's no point like innovating, because they'll just launch a new feature and then they'll eat me up.
And that's what's happening.
That is what is happening, because this is maybe a hot take, but I don't think AI has found like a slam dunk use case for humans yet. Everybody's selling you picks and shovels. It's like better way of like
Yeah.
putting it to the cloud, better way of training, better way of like creating the framework that orchestrates things. But the end users, the people who are using it, there's only bits and pieces of use here and there. So I would say that maybe Copilot is one of the first like really good use cases, but it's for programmers, and programmers anyway thinking. And the reason that GitHub Copilot works well is because code is formal language.
Yeah.
Whereas human beings talk in informal language, and there's the whole like actual linguistic like Chomsky frameworks and everything that goes into this. But informal language or natural language like that we call is inherently unmodelable. That's why you need freaking 175 billion parameters of like mixture of experts of like so many things to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas a code, I can sit down and write a compiler fairly easily, right?
By the way, talking about Copilot, which editor do you use? Code editor.
So for large scale projects, I use VS Code.
Okay.
But for small scale things, I use youve.
Okay.
And I use Vim key bindings everywhere. Like even in my browser, I use Vim key bindings.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Which LLM do you find yourself using the most?
From prototyping perspective, I use mostly OpenAI.
Okay.
But I'm starting to feel like Anthropic and all of these things are doing a really good job. So
3.5 Sonnet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like the way that I'm building my stuff is it's configurable. You can change
Okay.
one word from OpenAI to Anthropic and like
Yeah.
Anthropic will work.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
What's your programming language of choice?
I think most deeply in Python.
Mostly in Python.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Because
Same here.
that's what I taught myself in, and I would say I am an advanced developer in Python.
Okay.
I'm an intermediate or slightly below intermediate developer in JavaScript.
Oh.
But the language that inspires me the most and something that I know I will have to learn is Lisp.
Oh, Paul Graham.
Yeah.
Paul Graham also mentions the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So some of my architectures are recursive architectures.
Okay.
So like things call things call things call things.
Mhm.
And I'm replicating that in Python. And Python is a good language to replicate things in because it's slow,
Yeah.
but you understand what is happening very, very well. Lisp is a perfect fit for that. Because
Okay.
it's the functional lambda calculus, right? So it's like
Yeah.
recursive in nature. So like Lisp is a thing that I know I have to learn, and I will slowly learn it. But yeah.
Got it. Nice. What drives you to do your job or whatever the tool that you're building?
So I was born in a really small village.
Okay.
Apart from our central family, like my dad and his two brothers, outside of that, everybody is really poor. My dad was the first person in the family to educate himself well. So he went and studied at IIM Ahmedabad. He was the first. He didn't know how, like, he didn't know to speak English or anything. He really, really pushed. And he got that, and because of that, he became an inspiration for the younger two brothers, and so they are also doing decently well. So the other two brothers are really good. But outside of our core family, everybody else is like not. They're like poor. And whenever I go visit my family, I'm constantly reminded of the amount of privileges that I had in life due to circumstances that were completely out of my control. Right? And in some ways, I want to distribute this privilege to the people who did not get that because of circumstances. I think in some central way, like that is the driving force, that I had a lot of privileges in life. I'm not especially special. Everybody is capable of what I'm doing. It's about like making those opportunities available in more places, and especially in a place like India, like being able to distribute that privilege is one of the core driving forces that I have.
Man, that's a really good answer. Nice. I resonate with you on many levels there. Cool. What was the first program that you ever wrote?
The first is, it's a very canonical thing, but I initially I was trying to find a way of scheduling things and like doing my things in a way that works for me. And so started with to-do lists and everything, and it was not really working for me. So one of the first things that I built for myself was a task manager.
Task manager.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was completely in the command line.
Okay.
Because if you're a Python programmer, you try not to build anything with an interface for as long as possible, unless you dip into Streamlit and everything. So it was completely command line, but it worked really well.
What's one book that you would recommend everyone should read at least once in their life?
I'll tell you the book that shaped my perspective.
Sure.
There is this book called The Emperor's New Mind
Emperor's New Mind. Okay.
by Roger Penrose.
Alright, okay, I'll put it in the show notes. Cool. And what is one piece of advice you would give yourself 10 years ago?
Nothing.
You've done just right.
I mean, if you're happy with who you are today, then you're happy.
Yeah.
Every past version of you needed to exist in that exact way.
Yep.
So,
Matrix. Cool.
yeah, just continue.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
It's not an advice, it's more like something that I derived from it. It's a philosophy class that I took in school.
Yeah.
And it'll fundamentally change the track of my life. But one of the central things that I took from that was a new idea is only truly understood if you connect it to something that already exists in your brain. If not, it is a fact. And facts are forgotten.
Okay. This has a lot to do with how LLMs are also working with content. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Nice. What is a topic in AI that you would like to explore more?
Reinforcement learning with human feedback. Reinforcement learning, I feel like, is where decentralization of AI is going to happen.
Oh,
and right now, it is something that only the really big players like OpenAI and everybody does. It is what is going to decentralize AI. So I want to explore that a lot more than I have right now.
What is the risk that comes with AI?
What is the risk?
Yeah, to humanity.
So necessarily, there is going to be a transition period for jobs. There's going to be a transition period for what humans do. And a lot of people, it's easy for me to say because I'm on the benefiting end of all of this.
Yeah.
But when the printing press came, or like when the Renaissance happened and weaving became automated, people were like, "This is the job that humans do. Like, you're taking away all the jobs. We will be completely jobless, and we won't have anything to do." But what happened was, once it came, people figured out new jobs.
Yeah.
Much higher level jobs that humans are better suited to, right?
Yeah.
So there is going to be a transitionary period where some jobs are going to go.
True.
And especially people who are in the business of re-synthesizing other people's work. That used to be the way that they earn money and fed their families.
So middlemen are basically going to get eradicated. Cool. What's your favorite operating system?
I mostly work on a Mac, but almost everything I deploy is on Unix. So Linux or something like that.
Your favorite car?
My favorite car?
Yeah.
That
you have or maybe wish to have?
A Nissan GTR.
Nissan GTR, nice. Your favorite exercise if you work out?
My favorite exercise is a deadlift.
Deadlift, nice. A website that you like to waste your time on?
So I removed myself from social media a while ago. I was opening one of the social media. But a website that I do spend a lot of time is Wait But Why.
Wait But Why?
Yeah.
Blog, nice. Okay. What's the bravest thing you've ever done?
I think the most recent one.
Okay.
3 years ago, I was living in San Francisco. I was earning about 200K. I had a job lined up that was going to pay me 300K, and I dropped all of that, decided to move back to India, and told nobody, because if I told anybody, they would tell me all the reasons why I was stupid, which I was. Unequivocally, it was a stupid decision, but a good stupid for me. So I knew that everybody would talk me out of it. So I decided, and a week later, I was in India.
What's one thing you're afraid of?
Becoming complacent.
Okay. What's one thing that excites you?
Knowledge, learning new things. The further away they are from what I already know, the better.
Your favorite browser?
I use Brave.
You use Brave, okay. You get an all expenses paid trip to one city. Where do you go?
Somewhere in Rome, or history.
Okay.
And I haven't explored Europe at all. There's a lot of history there. Probably that. Vatican and everything I see.
What is one thing you can't live without?
My laptop.
Okay. How do you describe your experience at the school, MBA school that you went to?
Fantastic. I was not a shoo-in by any measure. It was a really good school, and up until then I thought I was arrogantly smart. Then I went to that and I realized, I'm the dumbest person in the room, and that was a very freeing thing. I realized you want to be the dumbest person in the room because that means that there's that much space to grow. So, yeah.
Okay. Who's the one person that you really admire?
Very few, but of the people who's alive, Roger Penrose is one person who I really admire or I'm inspired by. The people who are I tend to go a little bit more towards scientists.
Okay.
So other people who have inspired me include people like Charles Darwin,
Mm.
Maxwell,
Okay.
Einstein, like these kinds of people, and some philosophers as well.
Who is one person you looked up to when you were in college?
Steve Jobs.
And is that true today as well?
I don't normally look up to anybody.
Oh, okay.
I'm inspired by.
Okay. What is your go-to place to learn AI or engineering concepts? I mean, it could be like if it's
Yeah.
books just you in
Yeah. So I have a framework for learning that I have
Okay.
developed over many years that
Mhm.
works well for me.
Mhm.
So for me to understand something hard that is new,
Yeah.
I like to follow the human history of it.
Okay.
So like for example, there was some time ago where I was like, I realized I don't really understand electricity well. Like I understand what it is, but like I don't understand it at the level of like the depth that first principles that I wanted. So the best way to understand that was to find the people who were like the key contributors to it. So the two main people were Faraday and Maxwell, and read their stories. Because when you follow that, you realize why is that was needed. Why did these people feel the urge from within to work on something so fundamentally new, and when you follow that, you contextualize it with human history, and that leads to a much deeper understanding, I have found. So like usually biographies are like good starting points for me if I want to understand something deeply.
Okay. Nice. And like aren't those books hard to read? Like if you're going back and reading their stories.
But it's a biography, so it's
Okay.
much more.
Okay.
Humans love reading about humans.
Yeah.
It's boring to read about a concept like when you do a matrix multiplication, like this thing happens and then the dimension gets like warped in this way. That's boring.
Yeah.
If you're not like specifically interested in that. You read about a human, their problems, their troubles that they had to overcome, the things that they did, and the experiences that they led. It's much easier to read. Anybody can read.
If somebody is building an AI today, where should they start?
The deeper you understand the word embedding,
Okay.
the deeper your understanding of artificial intelligence as a whole.
Okay.
Understand that word, go deeper, understand it as deeply as possible, and know that there will come a point where you'll be like, okay, I understand it. That's your starting point.
Okay.
Okay?
Interesting.
I spent 3 years doing this, and I understand things from first principles up. Still, I cannot say I understand embedding completely.
Okay. Nice. Cool. And thank you so much for your time. And it was very fascinating to hear your experiences and what you have to share. Thank you so much.